solo, and then
Sorry, welcome back to the Ballerina and the Bodybuilder podcast. We have just been chatting for the past almost 20 minutes.
oh rip.
Simply because we haven't been on a call because of the past month or so with competitions and Bali and Lucy's amazing news with her article. Her position in that article in that magazine, which is very, very cool. So actually, do you want to like talk about that for a minute? That's really cool.
Oh, I will. I forget Ballerina is part of this podcast. Yeah, guys. So if you haven't seen my news on Instagram, I am currently, well, now a writer for a magazine called Dance Australia. So if you're Australian and / if you're a dancer, you would know what this is. But it's essentially the biggest dance magazine in Australia. And they come out every quarter. So I'll be writing 4 times in the year. And I'm one of their new columnists. I don't even know how to say it. In my video, I say columnist, and I think it's definitely a silent N, but columnist is what we're going with today. I mix it up every time. And yeah, it's super exciting. So obviously I'm not a writer, like this is the thing. And when I pitched the idea to them to write for them, I was like a little bit nervous and like a bit sheepish. And I was like, look, this is just an idea. Like I'm really passionate about, dance and mindset and nutrition for dancers, but I don't know, if this is okay. And so the lady essentially was like, send me through what you've got, just write something for me, send it through. And then as soon as I sent it through, she was like, yep, you're a regular. And I was like, okay, but I'm so dyslexic, like my words probably didn't even make sense. So she edited it. Like literally I was like, Mum, please proofread this before I send it. I was like, my mum will always be my editor. And then she was like, yep, this is great, and just get some few edits. And then she was like, send me other topics you want to talk on and you'll be in every column. So super cool. Super exciting.
Big boss bitch moves.
Big boss bitch moves for the ballerina. So it's nice. And it's one of those things that like as a kid, like every dancer had a subscription to. Like we all had the Dance Australia subscription. So now all my friends are like, should we like pick up our subscriptions again? Like, because obviously I'm going to be in all of them. So yeah, it's super exciting. It's super cool. And, I didn't think people would celebrate it as much as they did. Like for me, it was such a big deal. And then I posted like a reel on Instagram. It was just a reel like in my car. And I was just like, it was so exciting. Funny story, actually, my ex-boyfriend is on the cover. Right, like get off. But we're civil, but I was like, stealing my thunder, bro. It's so funny anyway. But yeah, so when I posted on Instagram, it just popped off. Like everyone was just like, it's the most like commented thing I've ever had in my life. I was like, this is insane, like the support. So yeah, very, very exciting for me. But yeah, so we've all been a little MIA because of everything going on. Obviously I went to Bali and had my comp, and then we did our solo episodes. So we're finally back. Oh my goodness, it's felt like so long since we have done an episode together. So we're very excited today. And as Katie was saying, we literally just talked for like 20 minutes and she was like, we need to hit record. And I was like,
I literally just cut her off. I was like, bitch, we need to start.
Halfway through, I was like, okay.
Got cardio to do at 8 o'clock, sorry.
So good.
Anyway, so I was just thinking on our little bit of a hiatus from each other, on the way back home in the car from the gym, I sent Lucy a voice note. I was like, what do you think of these topics of like to do on the podcast? And one of the ones that I mentioned to her was how to become a muscle mommy. Okay, so this is Lucy's new era, Lucy's new phase of her life, where she is going to be moving into like not a bigger category at all, but just entering into a place where she's no longer feeling skinny or frail or fragile, because she doesn't like how that feels. And I can definitely advocate for that for myself. I don't like how it feels either. I don't like the way that I look right now. Being this deep into prep, like my face is very gaunt. It's very like you can see the sockets and the cheeks and whatnot. It doesn't feel good. And you literally just did a reel on this as well, as like skinny is cringe, stuff like that. And so basically we're going to be going through the topic of like basically how to build muscle as a female, naturally, of course, and hopefully blow away the stigma of the fact that like you're not going to turn into Arnold fucking Schwarzenegger if you pick up a dumbbell and do a bicep curl. Okay,
I fucking wish.
Yeah, like honestly, how long have you and I spent trying to get bulky? Okay. And if you look at guys as well, how long have they been spending? How much energy do they spend going out of their way to get bulky? And they're not bulky. Okay. So can we please get rid of this stigma? Literally, Andrew Huberman and Chris Williamson just talked about this on like a little clip of their latest podcast. So go and watch that. I will link it in the podcast notes on YouTube. So make sure and go fucking watch that. If you don't want to listen to us smart people, go listen to other smart people. So
not as hot, but
yeah, well,
I knew that would get you. Yes,
so,
but even guys, essentially to the point where my new tracker for coaching is called Lucy Muscle Mommy Era. Like it is going. But yeah, this is the thing that has been coming up for me a lot recently is like I loved being like comp lean, like yeah, she was shredded, but also you don't love the way it feels. And I think people have a really unrealistic expectation of what you can live in and what is healthy and what is natural. But a lot of the time we should be spending our time in a maintenance phase, if not naturally building muscle and even in a slight surplus, if we want to feel really, really strong in the gym and have that really good performance and relationship with food. Dieting is a tool for a time in our lives and a season in our lives, and it's incredible and it's so much fun. Like I think it's so much fun. But so is the gaining phases, like so is the growing. And like Katie and I have both gone through major phases of growing and gaining weight. Even for myself, I started with Katie 25 kilos. We gained 25 kilos in the first, 2 years of working together. Like, and a lot of that was muscle, like genuinely, like I still had
literally all muscle, like you barely put on
majority of it other than my titties, but yeah. But yeah,
literally I gave Lucy a boob job, like
yeah, like literally it was insane, guys. We're getting back there, we're getting our way back there. But yeah, it's something that I think so many people are so terrified of, is like seeing that scale weight go up, but it is part of the parcel of gaining muscle at the end of the day. And a lot of the time when you are going into the gym, it's something that you should have a goal towards when you are training. Like, yes, the goal is to get really strong and feel really good, and your performance can be a goal, but so can gaining muscle. It doesn't have to be something you get scared of. And as we see, like on social media, I think it is being debunked these days, like the whole myth of you're going to get bulky, But I know for myself as a dancer, it was like we weren't allowed to train in the gym. Like you're not allowed to do it. And that's why it's so taboo that I train my dancers, because it's like, and I'm like, well, but look at them. They look the best on the stage. Like, sorry.
not
And
even
so
from the fact that they look the best on stage, you're taking care of their health and helping their longevity in the sport, because with resistance training, you're helping increase your bone mineral density. And obviously bone breaks, bone fractures, things like that are so common in dancers, especially when you're doing fucking spinny stuff in the air. And like, if you land wrong, you're going to break a bone, or you're going to have a fracture, as you well know. So yeah, so like we're going to talk about that today. And we're, like Lucy said to me as well, we'll talk about it in terms of 4 different pillars, which is going to be mindset. Excuse me, let me restart that again. 4 different pillars, which is going to be nutrition, training, recovery, and mindset. Okay. So before we get into it and start off with the nutrition aspect of things, make sure to subscribe, like the video, leave us a 5-star rating and review. Stop what you're doing right now. Stop, pause the podcast, and share it to your story. Okay, let us know where you are listening to the podcast from in the world, where you are in the world, what time of day you're listening to it in your day, because it really does mean the world to us when we see people enjoying and listening to our podcasts. And again, thank you so much for all of the love on the previous solo episodes as well. That was very, very overwhelming. So thank you so much for that. And yeah, we're building a cool little community with this podcast, and I'm loving it. So let's get into it now. You can start the podcast again. So we'll go about it, we'll go about and start in regards to nutrition. So I'm gonna let you take the wheel. Jesus, take the wheel. And start with the topic of nutrition, and I'll say my little bit if you don't say what I probably already am going to say anyway.
Brilliant. Okay. So guys, essentially when we're looking at the nutrition side of gaining muscle tissue, and with that comes gaining body fat. So firstly, you're gonna have to get over that. But when we are looking at becoming a muscle mommy, essentially, we are trying to get bigger as humans, okay? In order to get bigger as humans, we are likely going to have to eat more than our body needs, because we need to be in a calorie surplus. And yes, you can gain muscle in a maintenance phase, absolutely. But we're talking about like a muscle mommy transformation here. We're talking about actually intentionally gaining muscle, okay? We're not talking about just like a little bit here and there. We're saying, if you want to change your physique and you really want to change the way you look and be someone that feels very muscular, very, you know, powerful in their body, you are likely going to have to eat more than you need, okay? And so I think this is one thing that people get so scared to do, because they think, oh, well, I'm not hungry though. Like I'm not going to hit my calories off. I'm not hungry. Or that seems like a lot of food and all of the things. And what we have to get rid of is this kind of projection on food as the issue and as something that we have to keep really small, or we have to keep how we've always had it. You're going to have to change the way you eat in a way in order to account for probably higher levels of training and training intensity going up, and just you actually wanting to grow new tissue. So likely food is going to have to go up in your diet, and this is probably mostly going to come from protein sources and your carbohydrate sources as well, okay? So I know for myself, when I first started gaining muscle and actually intentionally gaining muscle, I was seeing the scale weight go up, but I knew that I was eating more food, and I knew that it was always going to be in a very healthy way, because the food I was eating was always of a very high quality, okay? So when we talk about having this transformation into a muscle mommy, it's not go and eat 10 cheeseburgers. It's not like, that's that thing of like the dirty bulk, like that shit fucks me off. But like, it's just not relevant. Like, if you're actually wanting to gain the muscle, you're going to want to do it in a very healthy and sustainable way that is actually good for your body and your health, because then your appetite is pretty much taken care of, your digestion should be good, and you shouldn't be feeling like total shit, okay? Because I think a lot of the time people go into a surplus, they're like, I can just eat whatever I want, and it's just like so not that. Like, I think you would agree, it's just so not that.
It's definitely not that. Absolutely not. And that's the biggest misconception that I see. One thing that I will correct you on there is, you said you're going to have to eat more than your body needs. It's not that your body doesn't need the extra food. It definitely does. It's more so, I think what you were saying, or what you were trying to explain, is you're going to have to eat more than you are used to with your current activity levels.
Yes,
You're
absolutely.
definitely going to be creating this demand for your body and for this extra food when we are increasing your calories, okay? And yeah, sure, you can go about gaining muscle in a very slow, controlled manner, but most people want to expedite the process and want the results yesterday. So you're going to do yourself a lot better of a service, of a justice, by having a larger increase in your calories, because it's going to help facilitate better training, better recovery, and better everything, really, to be quite honest. So it's not that like you're going to be eating like 1,000 calories more every single day. Absolutely not. That's definitely going to lead to weight gain or fat gain versus muscle gain. And that's one of the quickest ways, along with eating like shit, like eating cheeseburgers, non-nutrient dense, highly processed food, ultra processed foods. That is the surefire way to get fat, gain fat, and blunt your insulin sensitivity. Okay. So basically what I was going to what was coming to my mind there as well, when Lucy was saying these things, is if you eat like shit, you're going to feel like shit as well. Okay. So this is why we place such a high importance in your nutrient density and the diversity of your diet, and making sure 80 to 90% of your daily caloric intake, your food sources, come from single ingredient, whole nutrient dense foods. And then having a little bit of leeway with having other things that are, let's say, maybe a little bit higher processed, or maybe once a week you'll go out for a free meal that's less nutrient dense. But the aim should always be to make sure that your appetite is in a good spot. The idea that you should never be hungry is not conducive to muscle gain. If you are not hungry, that is telling us that we need to reset your appetite and probably pull back your calories a little bit. Okay. And that's a sign that your insulin has become blunted. Your insulin sensitivity has become blunted. So we want to actually pull back your calories, regain that appetite, and then slowly build back up from there. So But like Lucy was saying, making sure you're eating foods that you know digest really well for you, spacing your meals throughout the day appropriately. So at least having 4 solid meals throughout the day, or 4 to 6 meals. So like having smaller meals more frequently throughout the day. Now this is for people who don't have any sort of gut health issues, or have any sort of issues where they have to have longer breaks in between their meals in order for them to digest. So people who have like SIBO or leaky gut or anything like that, making sure that you are having smaller meals more frequently throughout the day, just so that you're constantly helping to stimulate muscle protein synthesis. With the nutrition aspect of things as well, like Lucy was saying, you're going to be probably increasing, if this is your first time doing or going through a building phase, you're going to want to increase your protein intake from what it normally probably would be. The recommendations for people who are resistance training or who are basically trying to be an athlete at the end of the day are 1.6 to 2.2 grams or 1.6 to 2.4 grams per kilogram of lean body mass, I believe. So not your actual body weight, but your lean body mass. So you're going to have like a rough guesstimate of that based off of your actual body weight. So for example, me, in my improvement season, my protein is usually around 200 grams of protein per day. Okay. Lucy, her protein, I believe, is at around 180 grams per day, around 170 or 80 grams per day. Now, hers is set a little bit higher at this moment in time post-show to help with appetite because protein is quite satiating. And with that protein number that you have per day, breaking it up into 4 to 6 meals, so dividing that number by 4 or 6 and basing your meals around that protein source throughout the day. And then obviously you're going to be increasing your carbohydrate intake as well, especially on your training days, and making sure you're prioritizing that carbohydrate intake on those training days around your training sessions. So this is what we call peri-workout nutrition. So your pre-workout meal, your intra-workout, if you're utilizing an intra-workout drink, not needed for anyone who isn't really intermediate or advanced. If you're a beginner, you do not need an intra-workout drink. Do not spend your money or waste your money on intra-workout powders or EAAs, or don't ever buy BCAAs. Okay, that is literally just flushing your money down the toilet. Okay. And then your post-workout meal as well. So ideally 65 to 75% of your daily carbohydrate intake should be placed in that pre, intra, and post-workout meal. Okay, that is to help fuel your training sessions and give you as much energy as possible going into your training sessions, and also to help with recovery post-workout as well. Okay. What else was I going to say there? With fats, we just want to make sure that we are touching on fats. The way that we kind of, or well, I anyway, go about nutrition is for people who are looking to build a lot of muscle or who are looking to like have some form of a transformation. Is I like to follow an approach where we have higher carbohydrates and lower fats on our training days, and then a little bit higher fat and lower carbohydrate on our rest days, just simply because, one, you're not going to have that much caloric need for the carbohydrates and the higher caloric intake as you would on your training days. Okay. So for me, I know that there is almost a 500 to 700 calorie difference in my training day nutrition and my rest day nutrition, simply because I'm not creating that caloric demand on my rest days because I'm not training, I'm not in the gym. And the other reason why we do, let's say, the higher fat, lower carb approach and the higher fat, lower fat, higher carb, lower fat approach on our training days and our rest days is to help with insulin sensitivity as well. Okay, because as soon as that insulin sensitivity gets blunted or gets like your appetite goes to shit and you can't get your food down anymore and it's literally making you sick and you're not digesting your food, that is when you're going to start to gain body fat. Okay, in excess. You have to be comfortable with gaining body fat when you're in a muscle building phase, especially as a female, simply because in order for you to build muscle, your hormones need to be functioning optimally. And for your hormones to be functioning optimally, you have to have body fat on your body. Hormones are a protein, but they travel in fat globules. Okay. So you need fat in your body in order to transport these hormones, but also you need fat in your diet to absorb fat soluble vitamins and minerals, and things like that as well. Okay, so it's very, very important, the nutrition side of things. And I wouldn't say like increase your daily caloric intake by 1,000 calories or even 750 calories each day. No, start small and then build your way up from there. See how your body responds to that extra caloric intake. See how your body responds in regards to your training performance, your recovery, your sleep as well. All of these signs are things that you need to be watching out for in terms of biofeedback markers when it comes to looking out for, okay, do I need to increase my calories a little bit more, or am I good staying here? Okay. And a good rate of gain to look for in regards to gaining weight in a muscle building phase is 0.5 to a kilo. A kilo might be pushing it a little bit per week. That would be the higher end, but 0.5 of a kilo or a pound per week is a good rate of gain. Okay. So with that being said, I think I've touched on everything that I needed to touch on there.
The only thing I wanted to touch on as well is when it comes to like your nutrition sources, guys, as we said, like obviously going for those like one ingredient foods, when you are getting higher and higher with your food, and maybe you're getting a little bit more full in your meals and things like that, not shying away from utilizing foods like honey and dried fruit and those sort of things that are a little bit more nutrient dense and a little bit smaller in volume. And so that you're not feeling that like extra fullness and that big effect of the food as you're getting to that top end. At the start, you probably shouldn't need to utilize things like that. And you can be increasing your rice and your pasta and your all those sort of things. But I know for myself, especially like, and I'll clients, if they're getting to that, oh, I'm getting a bit full after my meals, or, you know, if we find that we're getting to that point, utilizing something like a honey on our rice cakes or something like that, just to increase that carbohydrate without a lot of volume.
Yeah. So for what Lucy's talking about there, if you think about it, let's say you're trying to get 50 grams of carbohydrates from a carbohydrate source, and you have still a very high appetite, you might want to opt for something like potatoes. They're going to be quite filling. They're large in volume for a serving of 50 grams of carbohydrates, versus if you're going for, let's say, 50 grams of carbohydrates from rice when you're really, really full, you can make that rice literally this volume. Okay. Depending the way that you cook it. And then even adding like honey to that rice. Oh my God, amazing. Utilizing, like Lucy said, raisins, dates, prunes, figs, all amazing things. And even choosing fruit sources that are higher in carbohydrate as well, like bananas, okay, pineapple, mango, things like that. So yeah, I think we've pretty much covered that nutrition part of it as much
brilliant. Make it easier for yourself. Brilliant.
So yeah, with that being said, moving on to the training side of things. So with training, what I'll say is you want to train in a way that you enjoy. You need to train that you enjoy, because if you don't enjoy it, you're not going to stick to it. It's not going to be sustainable for you. Okay. But when it comes to gaining muscle, you need to be challenging your muscle every single time you step into the gym. Now, that does not mean switching your motherfucking workouts and your training sessions every single time you step into the gym. That is a for sure fire way to not gain muscle. Okay. And I hope everybody at least knows now that changing your training session every single time you step into the gym, or changing your training program, or just doing a different workout every single time you step into the gym is a stupid way to go about your training. Fine, if you're not looking to build muscle and you just want to have fun and say, fuck it, I just want to step into the gym, have fun, absolutely go for it. Go wild, go buck wild. But if you are looking to build muscle, you need to follow a certain specific set of exercises every single time you are doing your push session. You're going to be doing the same push session, maybe have 2 rotations of your push session for a good 12 months. So even the notion that people are switching their workouts or getting training blocks every 8 to 12 weeks, that is not going to help you build muscle. That is literally just because you are getting bored. If you are getting bored, get over yourself. Okay.
You probably don't want to be a muscle mummy then.
Yeah. You should be excited by the fact that you want to get stronger at these specific movements every single week. That is the challenge. That is the stimulus that you need to be shocking your muscle with every single week. That's the best way to shock your muscle. okay, is to fucking challenge the fuck out of it and lift more than you did the last week. Now, there's loads of different ways to progress your training. And it's not just the amount of weight that you're lifting or the number of reps that you're performing. Yes, those are two measurements of progression, but there are other metrics of progression that you should be utilizing as well. Okay. And that is the standardization of your form and your execution, your tempo. So your time under tension. Okay. Pausing in the isometrics, slowing down your eccentrics to sadistic levels. Okay. Even having shorter rest periods is another way to measure progression. But I wouldn't ever advocate for somebody to try and shorten their rest periods, just simply because you want to be fully recovered going into that next working set that you have in order to be able to give it absolutely everything that you can possibly give it. So if you're going into your second set or your third working set or your next exercise kind of only half recovered, you're only going to be able to give half of the energy that you have in order to try and give that exercise the credit it deserves, okay, the justice that it deserves. But if you like to train higher volume, lower intensity, that's perfectly fine. But for me, the most efficient way to train that I have seen, and in regards to results in terms of my clients and working with hundreds of different females, and even for myself as somebody who used to do higher volume training, who used to still fucking go after it and train to failure, lower volume, high intensity is the way to go. Okay. You can still get a pump. That's one of the kind of the clapback that I hear with low volume, high intensity is that, oh, you don't get a pump, so therefore you're not building muscle. If you're not getting a pump in the gym, you are doing something wrong. Okay. There's something wrong with your nutrition, your hydration status, your sleep, your recovery, something like that. You should still be getting a pump in the gym with lower volume, high intensity stuff. Okay. And if you think about it, if you can get as much work done in 2 working sets compared to 5 or 6 or 4 half-assed working sets, that's going to be the better option. It's going to be the better option. Okay. So when we say lower volume, we mean 1, 2, 3 working sets taken to failure versus higher volume where you're doing like junk volume of like 4, 5, 6, even more working sets per exercise. So with that training, you want to make sure that you're having your training days spread out across the week in a way that's going to allow you to be able to give everything that you can possibly give to those specific training sessions, and then breaking down your training split in accordance with your needs analysis. So what I mean by needs analysis is taking a look at your physique, or sitting down with, let's say, what it is that you want to build. What do you want to get better? So I'll take Lucy for an example here. If she was going to compete again in bikini, the likelihood of her training style would, or her training split would be very lower body dominant, glutes, hamstrings, and delts. That's basically all that we would be training. Okay, maybe a little bit of quads sprinkled in there, a little bit of lats. That's it. Whereas now, what she actually wants to build is going to be completely different from fitting the bikini criteria. So she wants a big back. She wants some chest muscle. She wants arms. She still wants to build her glutes and her hamstrings, redonkulous, but she also wants like a well-balanced physique. She wants to be a muscle mommy. So her training split now reflects that. So she has push, pull, legs, and then we have another lower session. So she has 2 upper sessions and 2 lower sessions. A balanced physique, a balanced split. Okay. And she's not doing those 4 training sessions back to back to back to back to back. Absolutely not. That's a surefire way to fuck yourself up. She is doing those training sessions spread out appropriately throughout the week so that she's giving her body enough rest in between each training session. So she does push,
legs, pull, legs, well, lower.
Push, legs, rest, pull, rest, lower, rest. So that is how she does it, because in her leg sessions, they're obviously going to be quite taxing training sessions. She's not going to be in a position to train the day after legs. So she has a rest day after legs. The pull session, that has a deadlift in it, I believe, So she has a big compound movement, a lower back loading movement in that pull session. Therefore, she's going to need a rest day after that as well. And then her lower second lower body session, very taxing session as well. She's going to have another rest day after that too. Okay. So I think I've touched on pretty much everything that I want to touch on there. I've ranted.
Yep.
Let you talk now.
Oh, incredible, incredible. I was going to ask you to break that down for the listeners, like what you mean by low and high volume. So I think they've got that now. The only other thing I want to touch on, guys, is it seems so self-explanatory, but I feel like it still needs to be said, logging your numbers. Especially, yeah. While you are actually just always logging your numbers, but especially when you're trying to progressively overload and you're trying to push these numbers up and grow muscle and get stronger, you need to know what it is you did in the gym the week before and try and push on that in some way. Like we talked about, it doesn't necessarily mean the number has to go up every week that you're putting on, what plate you're putting on, but logging your volume, logging how many reps you got, logging what weights you used and your rate of perceived exertion, like logging all these things. Either, if you're going to use your phone, use your phone. If you want to use a notebook, use a notebook. Or I know some of my clients put them in their own trackers that I have for them. Whatever it is, have a method that works for you that you're going to stick to, because some people, will get the cute notebook and then never use it again, or the notes app that just goes, in the bin. Yeah. Make sure you are going to stick to it consistently, because you cannot go into the gym and just try and remember the number.
You're not going to remember. You're not going to remember.
Because you're always going to end up doing 10 or 12 and you're never actually going to push to a level that you should be pushing to and actually challenge your muscle, because you go, 12 done. No, no.
That's actually a really good topic, actually, because it was a question that came up in a check-in yesterday, is how do I know when to progress my numbers in my training? So like this girl was stuck at like 4 kilos for her lateral raises. She didn't know when to increase to 5 or 6 kilos. So when you have your prescribed rep range, number one tip, if you can still go and perform reps after you've hit that prescribed rep range, if you can still go after a prescribed rep range of 12 to 15, you get to 15, you can still do more, keep fucking going, okay? Basically, the analogy is, if you had a gun to your head, could you perform another rep? Okay? That is the analogy. So let's say, for example, you hit your 4 kilo lateral raise and you hit 15 reps, or you hit 15, 16, 17, 18 reps. That is your sign for the following week to go up in weight. Okay. Now, don't blow past it massively. Increase it in an incremental fashion. So try 5 kilos next week. And let's say that following week, for example, you hit 15, 16, 17 reps again. That's your sign. You can probably jump to maybe 8 kilos. Okay, for example. But for example, the flip side of that, if you hit 5 kilos, if you jump up at like a kilo in weight with the weight that you're utilizing and you only hit the lower end of your rep range, that's your sign to stick to that weight for the following week and try and beat the number of reps that you performed with the same weight, or improve your form or your execution or your tempo with the same weight. So that is how you know how to increase your weight in the gym.
Yeah, I feel like that needs to be explained, because it's something that I think so many people get confused with. Or I have a lot of, clients when they first start, how do I know what weight to use? I'm like, well, I can't tell you that. You're going to have to experiment. And this is the whole point of not chopping and changing your training program all the time, because then you spend so much time trying to figure out, what weight do I use? Or how do I do this one again? And you spend so much time wasted on that when you could have just been progressing your numbers and actually perfecting your form. And the thing is, like for my last training program, I did that for probably at least 12 to 16 months or something. Even still at the end, I was sending videos. On good weeks, I was sending videos across to Katie, and I was making sure that I was executing the movements perfectly every time and still tweaking things. They still weren't perfect in my mind. I was still tweaking things every set, like making sure that I was trying to execute the same every time, because that's the only way you can progress. You can't progress if the form isn't there and if you actually don't know what you're doing. So stick to something consistently. Don't get excited by changing programs. It's all exciting. It's actually not. You're just going to be left confused and a little further behind than if you just kept going on what you were doing. At the end of the day, the gym isn't a place of your entertainment. I always think it's like, it's not entertainment. If you love the gym, it's very entertaining. For me, it's very entertaining. I freaking love it. But it shouldn't be your only form of stimulus that makes you work out, right? It shouldn't just be, I've got a new program, so I'm going to the gym. No, you're going to the gym to better your body, better yourself, help yourself, grow stronger, And if that means staying consistent with something, then that's maybe what you have to practice a little bit more of, is the consistent side of it. Does that make sense, kind of?
Absolutely. So like what Lucy is saying there is, like, if you're not logbooking your numbers, and if you're not getting stronger from week to week or month to month, and if you're the type of person who's constantly changing their training program, changing their workouts, and you're not getting stronger in any of those movements because you're hitting them so infrequently, because you keep changing your training program, or you're actually getting weaker because you're not hitting those specific movements on a more consistent basis, how do you expect to build muscle? How do you expect to build muscle if you're not getting stronger at these movements? Okay. If your logbook is correlating to the fact that you are getting stronger week on week with your numbers, your reps, your form, your execution, making sure that your form and execution is standardized from week 1 until week 24 or 52, that the first time you hit an exercise, your form is immaculate. The last time you hit it, it is immaculate. As you increase that weight, to make sure that that is a true progression, you can be guaranteed that those numbers are going to be correlated to new muscle mass. So when you're in a building phase, especially when we are maybe carrying a little bit of extra body fat, or we're not able to see the lines as much as we would do in a dieting phase, this is a really helpful way in terms of the mindset side of things to be like, well, I'm increasing my numbers, therefore I should be increasing my muscle mass. So it takes the guesswork out of, oh my God, am I getting bigger? Am I just getting fat, etc.? You're more than likely gaining muscle tissue. And that's why logbooking is one of the main reasons, or one of the reasons why logbooking is so important.
I love that. And I think that actually blends with a little bit of something that we'll probably touch on in the mindset side, but also this side is having some clear goals for your training as well. Something that we've discussed before for myself, and something that I find is very important in a gaining phase, whatever you want to call it, muscle mummy era, having some goals around your training, because maybe when you're not seeing the same, performance goals, let's say you're not seeing the lines, as we just said, maybe as much as before, and you're not getting as much of the, excitement from that you might be getting in a dieting phase. Okay, but you're getting hella strong. So why don't you set yourself some incredible performance goals in order to reach towards? Because then it gives you something to be pushing towards, and something to also be measuring your progression. And like, okay, cool, I ticked off that goal. I've clearly gained muscle, I've gained strength, and I've gotten better in the gym. So it just keeps that sort of excitement going. And you can only get those goals if you do the consistent training as well.
Yeah. So basically, consistency across the board is the name of the game. You need to be as consistent, or even more consistent, as you would be in a dieting phase in your gaining phase. You be treating your gaining phase like a prep to an extent, in terms of routine, structure, your nutrition, your training. Obviously having freedom there around your nutrition and whatnot, and like going for social events and everything like that. So recovery. Okay, recovery.
Do you want to just, one thing, do you want to just quickly touch on cardio in like cardio steps, sort of like in that sort of phase?
That'll be in recovery. That'll be in the recovery.
Blend them. Yeah, perfect.
So when it comes to recovery, we can touch on cardio there now. Obviously you don't want to be doing a fuck ton of cardio or a fuck ton of steps during your gaining phase, because that is going to negatively impact your recovery and your ability to put on muscle mass, because basically you're burning through the energy that your body needs in order to build that muscle. So it's like an energy bank. If you're spending that energy on steps and cardio, how do you expect to build muscle? Okay, you're spending that caloric energy that you're putting into your body just getting cardio and steps done, and you're just going to feel fucked from doing so much as well. So you don't want to be doing like a massive amount of cardio. There is a place for cardio, and obviously getting a certain amount of steps in your gaining phase in order to help positively impact your recovery, okay? As well as keep your fitness levels up to a certain extent. So for some people, I will utilize low impact steady state cardio in their improvement seasons or their gaining phase. For other people, I will utilize high intensity interval training, okay? Because when you are getting to those higher body weights, this really challenges your cardiovascular health and challenges your fitness level. So staying super fit when you're gaining that body weight, muscle mass, and body fat can really, really help with your performance in the gym. So for example, when you get to like a higher body weight, hitting those higher end rep ranges, so like 12 to 15s, 12 to 20 reps on certain exercises, your lungs get gassed before your actual muscles tire out first. So it's used as a tool, cardio, in whether it be HIIT or low intensity steady state, is used as a tool to keep your fitness levels up, to supplement and make sure that your training is still progressing as well. You don't want to be utilizing cardio to like keep your body fat down, because that's also going to be for sure for a way of keeping your muscle mass down. So if you want to do cardio every day, fine. I wouldn't put it past 20 minutes for most females, or males even. But if you live like quite an active lifestyle like Lucy does, with like teaching classes, being on the go all of the time, on her feet, she's just a very hyperactive person. She'll be getting her cardio pulled within the next few weeks, and she'll be just on a step count, and we might utilize high intensity interval training as a fun way to keep her cardio in, and have it as another, let's say, performance metric that we can utilize in her improvement season. So for example, when I used to do high intensity interval training, during my improvement season, the way that I would measure my progress was I would do the high intensity intervals on the stairs, because I could control the level of intensity that I was utilizing for my sprint pace and my jog pace. So I might start off on like level 4 on the Stairmaster for my jog pace or my warm-up pace, and then level 12 for my sprint pace. But each week I was increasing those numbers on my jog pace, but also my sprint pace. So I got to like level 6 as my jog pace, and level 18, 19, 20 as my sprint pace. Okay.
I remember.
So that those are ways to like increase, or let's say measure your progress in terms of your fitness levels within your improvement season. And it keeps things interesting. And like I said, I like to use something like the Stairmaster, or an elliptical to a certain extent, where you don't have the ability to slack off because the machine is moving so fast. You have to keep up with the machine. I don't personally like advocating for the treadmill or doing sprints on the treadmill, just because it's so harsh on your joints. But you could do it on a rowing machine or the elliptical, or a bike sprints if you like the bike. I fucking personally hate the bike. But yeah, so that's kind of like the thing on cardio. And obviously you don't want to be doing so much cardio and steps in your improvement season or your gaining phase, because then when it comes to diet and you're doing 18,000 steps a day and 40 minutes of cardio already, how do you expect to drop body fat if you're already doing that amount of cardio and that amount of daily activity? You want to have it in a place where it is low enough, but not low to the point where it's negatively impacting your recovery and your performance, but not high where it's negatively impacting your recovery and your performance. And that's going to be different for every individual, every person, based off of their lifestyle, their job, their current place within their physique as well. But other metrics in terms of like what we are looking for in terms of recovery, the number one thing, and you're probably going to take the words out of my mouth, is sleep. Sleep is so, so important. And it's going to be your number one tool for muscle building, for recovery, for fat loss, for mental performance. It is so, so important.
And even in an improvement, like in a phase of gaining muscle as well, making sure that you are not, because you're eating more food across the day, you're not leaving a lot of your food to the end of the night, so then you're negatively impacting your sleep as well. You know, it's that whole thing of like, oh, I'll just eat it all at the end of the day. And some people are leaving that last meal till right before they close their eyes, because I understand like it's more food in the day, but it's only going to negatively impact your digestion, which is going to negatively impact your sleep. And then you're not going to recover as well in the morning, and you'll be full in the morning. So that just doesn't help at all. So being very mindful of like what your nighttime routine is. And I think the biggest thing with recovery as well, I was thinking about as we were talking, it's like actually just keeping the same things consistent almost that you would do in a dieting phase in this phase. Okay. If you're getting massage, get your massage. If you're getting physio or, you know, acupuncture, get your physio and acupuncture. Your body is still under stress essentially because you're trying to do something with it and you're trying to grow it to this new level. So you still need to take care of it equally as well. And I think this is where people almost slack off a little. They think, oh, I'm in my bulk. I just hate that fucking word. I'm in my bulk. And it's like, that doesn't mean you become lazy. Like, it doesn't mean you become lazy with taking care of your body. Like, stretching, making sure you're recovering. Yeah, maybe your sessions are taking a little longer in the gym. You still have time to do some stretching and do a proper warm up and take care of your body inside and outside of these times. Yeah, sure, maybe your steps aren't as high, but using the steps that you've got to go for a beautiful walk outside and make a point of doing that. That is all a form of recovery. And obviously sleeping, because that goes without say, your sleep is likely going to be a little bit better, I would say, when you've got some more food in you. But even then, it can be worsened if you're not timing your meals properly. So making sure of all those things in order to support your recovery is going to be essential in a phase like this. And it's the same with even a phase of maintenance. It's the same thing. Keep the habits that you've already got so that they can translate through all of your phases. And there's only going to be a few things you probably pull up and down in all your phases, but the core things should stay the same. Taking care of your body, taking care of your sleep, taking care of like getting some sunlight and all those things, they're all essential for your recovery. And taking care of that is going to be one of the biggest things that translates.
Yeah. What I was going to touch on there was, oh my God, it's after slipping my mind. Why has it slipped my mind? What did you just say? Like I was listening.
Okay, stretching, sunlight. That's fine. I
digestion part. Yeah. So please do not macro hoard or save all of your meals to the rest of the day. The reason why we break up those meals and those macros throughout the day into specific meals and meal times is so that your digestion is optimized. If you're saving all of your food until the end of the day before you go to bed, that's going to negatively impact your digestion. You're going to have bloating. You're possibly going to like get acid reflux because your food isn't digested, and then you go to lay down and it's coming back up your esophagus. You could cause damage to your esophagus with GERD, okay? As well as if you're eating that much food in one sitting, your blood sugars are going to spike massively and they're going to stay spiked throughout the night, and you're going to wake up with higher blood sugar levels. You're not going to be hungry in the morning for your first meal either, okay? Negatively impacting, is just going to like reiterate that cycle, that vicious cycle, okay? Yeah. When you eat that much food before you go to sleep, when you are digesting food, your heart rate goes up in order to digest that food. All of the blood in your body, or the majority of the blood in your body, goes to your digestive system to digest that food, to bring the nutrients away from your digestive system to the rest of your body. That takes energy, okay? That takes like extra effort for your body, the thermic effect of food, for example, okay? Whereas when we're sleeping, our body wants to not focus on anything else apart from sleeping. So if it's spending energy trying to digest food, that's negatively impacting your ability to get to sleep and get good quality sleep, okay? Because your resting heart rate needs to be lowered in order for you to get to sleep, okay? So you can see how the two are like negatively impacting each other. So yeah, I think like
love that.
Again, with your food is going to be acting as a recovery tool. Your sleep is going to be acting as a recovery tool. Making sure you're spacing your rest days appropriately throughout your training split is going to be a recovery tool. Other like actual physical metrics of your recovery tools, like Lucy has said, is stretching, physio, massage, acupuncture, chiropractic work, okay? Taking baths, Epsom salt baths, or utilizing the sauna or the cold plunge, okay? All of those things are going to be utilized physical metrics of enhancing your recovery, okay?
Yeah.
Not recovering from your training, you're not going to build muscle mass.
And what's that other one you say? If you're not, you can only digest what you can, what's that thing you say? You can only eat what you can digest, is that it?
Yeah. So you can only
oh my God, I've butchered it.
So
essentially, if you're not digesting your food, you're not going to be utilizing it, and you're not going to actually be, using it
so
properly.
For example, that like we had this with Lucy before in her improvement season setting phase, where her calories were super, super high, but her weight wasn't really moving. It wasn't really going up. It was kind of staying stagnant, and her appetite was blunted. She was having a hard time getting that food in anyways. And then when we pulled that food back, a little bit, that's when she actually started building muscle, because she was actually able to utilize the food that she was eating. She was actually digesting it better and utilizing that food better because she was eating a little bit less. Okay. So sometimes the answer isn't always more food. Sometimes you need to pull back in order to slingshot you forward. So one of my favorite analogies is a bow and arrow. In order for you to shoot that arrow forward, you have to at first pull it back. Okay.
Love that.
And bodybuilding and building muscle is a game of push and pull. It's not a who can eat most contest, or who can train the hardest contest, or who can diet the best contest. It's a game of push and pull. Okay. So I think we pretty much touched everything on there as well.
Thanks for explaining that. I butchered that mega. Yeah, I think that's everything in recovery. And I think it's just seeing and this, I guess this is mindset, but seeing this phase is no less important than your other phases.
Yeah.
Like this, like gaining muscle and letting your body weight go up and letting your body fat go up is no less important than you being in a diet and getting super shredded. They're equally as important in your journey, and you should be taking care of yourself equally. Yeah.
I would say being in a maintenance or a gaining phase is much more important, because you are reestablishing hormonal pathways. You are reestablishing your cycle if you lost it in a dieting phase. You're reestablishing a healthier relationship with food, a healthier relationship with your body image, and seeing your body in a place where it should be the majority of the time. Because like within a gaining phase, like we'll kind of segue into mindset now, like you should not be trying to keep your abs in a gaining phase. Unless you are a genetic phenom, you are not going to be able to stay super lean and gain muscle at the same time. Even if you are taking performance enhancing drugs, it just doesn't work that way, especially as a female. If you're a guy, it's going to be different. Okay. You have to have body fat in your body. And if you are freaking out about the fact that you're gaining body fat in a building phase, in a gaining phase, just fucking get over yourself. Get over yourself.
Get over it.
Yeah.
Get over it. You grow in some boobs. That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Your face is going to look, nice and big cheeks. You're going to be fine with it. I think it's such a thing that people think, oh, I only want to gain muscle. It doesn't work like that, guys. And body fat is a very fucking good thing. But honestly, you need to change your relationship with the scale. This is one of the biggest things I did, was when I was in an improvement phase like this, like I am now, seeing the scale go up is a positive thing. That I would say to myself, because I used to go,
something to celebrate.
My scale. But yeah, you go, oh my God, what I'm doing in the gym and with my food is working.
Yeah. But that's one of the things that I say to certain people when I'm working with them and we're not doing a dieting phase, we're either in a maintenance or a building phase, and they're freaking out about the fact that the scale weight is going up. And I'm like, honey, you asked for this. Okay.
You wanted this.
Yeah. So one of the things that I like to talk about is, in terms of changing your mindset or your relationship with the number on the scales, is one, first off, it is not tied, it does not signify or anything, or it is not tied to your self-worth or your dignity as a human being on this planet. It is simply a piece of data telling us your relative mass to gravity on Earth. So get over it, okay, is the number one thing. Secondly, you should be fucking celebrating the fact that the number of the scales is going up. Okay, you are going out of your way to butcher yourself in the gym, training as hard as you possibly can. You are eating more food in order to facilitate that training, in order to facilitate that recovery. I would be upset if the weight wasn't going up in the scales.
I'd be pissed.
It should be, that number going up in the scales is a direct reflection of your hard work that you are putting in. Fucking celebrate it, okay?
Yeah.
So yeah, sorry, that's
the biggest mindset shift. I love that. It's honestly one of the biggest things that changed my mindset with the scale, was just being like, wait, this is a really good thing. All of this work I'm putting in is paying off. And in that same breath, it's like, okay, you've asked to be in a bigger body. You've asked to have more muscle. You want bigger glutes. You want, okay, that's awesome. Then you're going to have to get rid of the smaller clothes.
Yes.
You're going to have to get over it. You're not going to fit into the smaller clothes that you maybe were in at some point in your life. Put them in the back of the cupboard or throw them away. No, I don't even think
don't even keep them.
Just chuck them.
Just chuck them. Don't eat them or sell them on Vinted or Depop or Postmark. Get rid of them. Okay.
You want to look different.
Then you get to buy new clothes when you go down again.
Exactly. I remember in my my first sort of gaining phase with you, I'd be like, each week, oh, it looks like I need to buy new clothes. And you'd be like, okay, sure.
Sorry, not sorry.
What makes you, all good.
Just hating
But
your
it
shopping
is
addiction.
literally. I was like, okay. But no, it is a thing, guys. Like you can't expect to fit into the same clothes. So be okay with that. It doesn't make you a worse or better person to be leaving those clothes, right? And it's the same with, as we said, the number, the clothes, like photos of yourself. If you were going through a phase of gaining, I wouldn't be looking back at all your shredded photos. Like I'm intentionally like, wow, I look so incredible on the stage, but I don't need to be staring at all these thousands of photos I have of my abs. Why would that help me? Why would that help me? You can appreciate that your body was in that position and that's incredible, but you need to keep sight of your new goals moving forward. And remember as well, that you may be a little bit more prone to other people in the gym perhaps, or other people dieting and getting more, people in a shredding and whatever it might be. That doesn't mean that they are doing something better than you. That doesn't mean that. You are on your journey. So stay focused on your part in your journey. This is a very healthy phase for you to be in. This is a very healthy thing for you if this is your desire. So try not to get distracted by the glamour of other fit girlies in the gym who are probably just genetic freaks, or they're shredded, from a diet. You don't know their situation. So focus in on your goals and keep looking at that end goal. Does that make sense?
The grass is not always greener on the other side.
No.
Yeah. And that's a big
and
one.
it's
Focus on yourself. Forget what everybody else is doing. Keep your head down. Enjoy what you are doing, because by the time you realize it, it's going to come time to diet again. Now, with that being said, in terms of the mindset thing as well, what I wanted to touch on is 3 months is not a gaining phase. 3 months is not an improvement season. It's not. Okay. After a diet, you're going to have a period of time where you're going to have to recover from that diet, depending on how harsh or severe that diet was. Okay. So that's going to be after your diet. You're going to have a recovery period. It could be 8, 12 weeks, which is 2-3 months. Then you begin your improvement season. Then you begin your gaining phase. Okay. And you should be spending 6, 9, 12 months in an improvement season setting phase. Yes, there may be little periods where we pull back your food a little bit for maybe a couple of weeks or 4 weeks or something like that, and then push on again just to help resensitize appetite and insulin sensitivity. But for the majority of the time, you should be in a maintenance or a gaining phase.
And exactly, like that recovery part is getting yourself back to a place of maintenance, because you've just dieted for so long. You're not even near maintenance. So it's like trusting your body and trusting that you need to give it time in order to do what it wants. Just as much as you'd give it, like an 8-week diet doesn't work. Well, okay, but that's what I'm saying. But a 4-week diet, like a 4-week shred, isn't really going to get you where you want to be. Let's say if you want a big transformation, just as much as you need to spend time. We spent 2.5 years gaining 3, but probably like more than that, gaining. And I felt so good for that. And honestly, the other thing I would say with the mindset, once you start, it gets easier. I think it's a scary thing. If you've never like intentionally put on weight, it's like a bit of a taboo, scary thing. And you think you might get judgment from others or people don't understand it. If it's your goal, that's all you need to know.
Yeah.
That's all you need to know. Just start.
Nobody really cares about you as much as you care about yourself. So don't ever think that somebody's like thinking badly of you or anything like that. Absolutely not. Plus, you're probably going to be a better friend, a better partner, a better family member when you're in a caloric surplus or a caloric maintenance phase versus when you're dieting. So embrace that. Okay. Embrace that side of all the things you can do when you have all of this energy.
And set more life goals as well.
Yeah.
Set more goals outside of your body as well.
Yeah. Because you are more than just your body. The least interesting thing about you is the way that you look.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So I think that's really good.
I think we've pretty much covered everything there.
But that's a big episode. I love it, guys. But to summarize, okay, you need to take care of your nutrition with everything we've said. Prioritize your recovery and take care of yourself just as you would in any other phase. Be very consistent with your training and intentional with your training, and then make your mindset what you want it to be. If you want to be a muscle mummy, you got to bring the mindset along with you. You can't go in with all the fear of judgment and everything. Go hard or go home. That's my opinion.
Yeah, 100%. So with that being said, thank you very, very much for listening. I was about to say thank you very much for your check-in.
I really
Thank you guys
appreciate it.
so much for listening, or for watching if you're watching on YouTube. And if you have any questions about this episode, send us a message. We'll be more than happy to answer. Make sure and share it to your stories like we just talked about. And we will see you guys next week for another amazing episode, which we are super excited to talk about. So thank you. Much love, peace, and have an amazing week. Oh, what's happening here? Oh my gosh.